guys, today I'm here with the most anticipated review of the year. It feels like we're chatting about the Colourpop No Filter Foundation. As always, I will have timestamps down below if you're looking to skip ahead, along with shades that I am and more popular foundations if you're trying to match yourself. And I will also have some videos down below that talk about oily skin, skincare, primers, powders, all that good stuff. So let's go ahead and get started. So the Colourpop No Filter Foundation launched about a month ago now, and it retails for $12 American. You can purchase it on the Colourpop website, and it comes in 40 different shades. You've probably heard this over and over again, but really glad to see that it has such a big range of shades in there, and it's kind of broken down quite nicely in terms of like light, medium dark. I believe it goes to deep. They have a shade matcher on their website. Temptalia has done one as well, and then of course there's lots of reviews out there. So I purchased this the day it launched, and I was a little bit confused. The people that they had sent PR to, a lot of them don't have my skin tone, so I went and matched myself with It's My Ray Ray. She wore the shade 115, so I purchased a shade below her and a shade above her along with 115. So the deepest shade that I purchased was 120. I featured this in a Get Ready With Me recently, which I will link to down below, and at first I was kind of thinking that this might be a little bit too light, but I actually think it's a good shade because the Temptalia's matcher and Colourpop's versus what It's My Ray Ray was wearing all kind of gave me conflicting information, and it can just be a little bit confusing, but I actually think that this shade match is okay. I could maybe go a little bit deeper, but I feel like it almost deepens a little bit as you wear it. Not necessarily oxidizes, but there's been days where, because I've wanted to test this foundation out for a while, that I've only worn this with no bronzer or anything, and it didn't look super pale on my skin after I had applied it. So I don't know if that helps you out at all. But like I said, I did order this online. It actually came quite quickly in terms of Colourpop shipping, and I actually was not charged customs, which is always exciting as a Canadian. I've been charged customs every time I've ordered from Colourpop since I've been living here in Toronto, so it kind of makes an affordable product less affordable when not only are you paying customs, but you're also paying in USD. So like I said, this foundation retails for $12 American, which is closer to like 15 or 16 Canadian, and you're not getting a full fluid ounce in here. So although it's a good price, it's not like an incredible price as a Canadian anyways. But of course, if it's good, I mean, it's still technically under 20 bucks, which is a pretty good deal for a foundation, but that's something to keep in mind as you are getting a little less product in here. The packaging is nice, it's minimal, it's glass, which doesn't really bother me. It's not the best for travel necessarily, but I mean, we're not all traveling all the time, and it has a lock cap on there. Mine has gotten a little bit dirty. I cleaned it off for the video, but I do like the packaging, and I like that you can see through it, although it doesn't really matter because it's not like you're going to be coming across this in stores. So I'm going to go ahead and actually prime my skin. I've noticed now that I've worn this foundation a few times, it's kind of breaking all my rules because generally I don't need a primer. Primers can be good, but normally I don't need a primer to make a foundation work, and I feel like I need a primer with this, and I also have been using a sponge. I don't know what's going on with this foundation, but let me talk just slightly about the claims. Actually, let's talk claims while I actually put the foundation on my face to save some time. I am going to prime, like I said. I'm using the Origins Original Skin Pore Perfecting Cooling Primer. I like this one because it's kind of smoothing and a little bit hydrating, but it's not too hydrating for my oily skin. And it just does a really nice job smoothing and kind of prepping the skin. I really feel like if you have texture, I mean, I've watched a few reviews on this, and just from what I've seen people saying on like Twitter and stuff, I feel like the reviews are so mixed. Like some people had such good experiences with it, and I don't know how I feel about it so much. So I don't like having to do work to make things work, if that makes sense. And I don't know how much it even works really in the end. So I'm going to pump some onto the back of my hand, and I'm only using 2 pumps, I'm pretty sure. It pumps out only a little bit of an amount. It's quite liquidy. And I shook it up before, and I'm just going to kind of dot it onto my skin like that and blend out with the Beauty Blender. So on the website, it says that it was built for the selfie age that we live in. It's a buildable, full coverage, natural matte, and delivers flawless skin day to night. Build it up, share it out, soft blurring, lockable pump that's mess free kind of, and it's 100% cruelty free and vegan, which is great. I really only like a little bit of foundation when I'm wearing this, so I wouldn't build this up to full, and I don't like it with a brush. I find it streaky, so I only like just a little bit of it. because I find the more I build it up, the worse it wears, in my opinion. And it's not that it, like, for me anyways, it's not that it disappears throughout the day. It sticks around, but it doesn't look good. So, I don't know. I'm gonna link to my friend Cheryl. She reviewed this as well. I actually haven't seen her review, but she told me what's going to happen in it. And that will be up now, I think. And she has more dry skin, so I'll link to her video down below. So that's all I'm going to use on my skin. I used 2 small pumps, and I think that the coverage looks good. I think right now it looks good. It looks really natural on the skin. I'm still trying to, like, I've been testing this out for a while, because I really, like, the first time I tried it, I was kind of like, huh? And I really wanted to give it some more time. And I was also trying to figure out if I could get more shades for a review. I had emailed their PR and didn't hear back. Then I emailed customer service because I saw like a few customers had ordered the wrong shade and then they were resent more shades, but they wouldn't do that for me. And I didn't think that I like loved it enough to buy more shades, but I do definitely, like, I think that this shade is fine. It could be a little bit deeper, but I wouldn't want to go any more deep because I find like my skin, like, it looks darker than what it is. And once I bronze and everything, it's fine. So I've given it just a little bit of time to set, and I feel like it has set a little bit, but there's still a little bit of dew to my skin. And if it's to stay like this for the rest of the day, then I'll absolutely love it. Like, I think it looks super natural on the skin. It has like this kind of skin-like finish. It's one of those no concealer foundations, as I've mentioned, where I feel like you could easily get away with just wearing this to even out your skin. But like I said, I don't want to build it up to full. This is not a first impression, but it's kind of like my first time playing around with it this way, because the other ways that I've tried I haven't enjoyed so much. So let's go ahead and move on to concealer. I'm using one of their new concealer shades in medium 26. The other shades that they had I didn't love so much. I felt like the undertones were a little bit weird on it, and I have had good experiences with this concealer. I do like it, but my issue with it was the shade, so I think that this is a better shade for me. I'm going to blend this out with my fingers. That's my preferred method, at least initially. I let it set under my eyes for about a minute, like I do with any concealer, to really keep coverage. Because if I just put on concealer and then go straight in with a beauty blender, I watch people do that sometimes and I'm like, how does it not just disappear on your face? So for me, this is the way I get my concealer to hold its coverage the most. And then blending the edges with this Real Techniques brush. I know I've talked about that kind of method a bunch, but you may be a new viewer. Yeah, I'm happy with this foundation shade. A lot of people were suggesting 135 and I had debated that as well, but I think that it may have been too dark, because if you can see, I think it looks good. I've set my under eyes, but to set my face, I'm going to be using their No Filter Sheer Pressed Powder. And I wanted to say about the concealer, I feel like the concealer is a good deal. It's $6 and it's has about the average size of a regular concealer in there. And this powder, I'm not totally sure about. I think it's $9. It seems okay, but it's not my favorite. I don't have many thoughts on it just yet. But it doesn't make me look like too powdery, doesn't have a ton of color, so it is just a nice powder if you're looking for one. And they have actually released, or they are releasing, a primer and a setting spray I saw on Instagram last night. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the rest of my makeup, and I will be right back to show you how it looks in flash photos. Back with a full face of makeup, and as always, everything I'm wearing is listed down below, but I also have a little mini Instagram tutorial because I am wearing a few other Colourpop items, so if you want to see that all in action, I will link to it down below. But I think that things look good. My issue with this foundation is I really like the way it looks on its own, but when you add powder over it, even if it's only a little bit, I find it starts to look cakey and highlight texture, even though when I just had the foundation on, I felt like it looked so good, super natural on the skin, and then with powder it just kind of loses its pizzazz, we'll say. And I've tried it with different powders. I've tried it with a little powder, with a lot of powder. I'm not going to not powder it because that's not how I roll with my skin type, but I feel like it loses itself a little bit when you powder it. So for a flash photo, I do think that it looks really good here in my lighting. As I mentioned, a lot of the time when I take these photos with like nothing else on my face and just foundation, it can look very interesting, we'll say, but I find just the foundation on its own looks natural, looks nice, lets my freckles show through. And then with flash photo, I think it looks pretty good as well. I'm not a ton of flashback in there, and I don't believe it has claims of any SPF in there. So I think that things look good. I don't think that it looks amazing, and I feel like for the level of coverage that I have on my face, like I put very, very little on my face, and it's not like I got a ton of coverage. I put on just a little bit to give myself this nice natural coverage. I feel like it looks much heavier than it should, because if I'm gonna get all this coverage and then it ends up looking a little bit cakey, then okay, fine. But if I'm going for like something more natural, like my freckles are still showing through, then I don't want it to look cakey and dry on my face. So I'm gonna go ahead and wear it for the rest of the day. I'll check back with you in some natural lighting if you'd like to see it that way, and then of course I'll check back at the end of the day to show you how it all held up. Actually, very quickly, I don't know if you can tell, but it's like it's already starting to crease right here, which I don't know if I'm just getting older or this is how it's working now, but I almost never get creases here. And then around my nose, it's starting to look dry already, and I've had it on for 10 minutes. Anyways, I'll check back in a bit. So it's time for my midday check-in from the couch and in some natural lighting. So as you can see, the shade match I think looks really, really good, but I do have a little bit of, not really oils coming through. Honestly, it's probably sweat. I just tried on a bunch of clothes. I have a vacation coming up, so I was trying on a bunch of things that I just got in the mail. I got a Forever 21 order. But I'm not going to powder just because I don't like how powdery and kind of dry it still looks on my skin. It doesn't feel like the creasing has really gotten any worse, but I still don't think it's really doing my skin any favors. But as the oils do come through, it does look a little bit better for sure, but I feel like it still is a little bit dry looking on my skin. So I'm gonna go ahead and wear it for a few more hours, and I will check back with you at the end of the night. So here we are back. It is the end of the day, and from probably what you're seeing, I feel like things look pretty good. As I mentioned, it did look a little dry to begin with, so as my oils come through, I think it starts to look better and less cakey. I would maybe try wearing this without a powder, but I didn't feel like it's set down enough to the point where I'd want to put bronzer and whatnot on top of that. That's just not my personal style. So perhaps something like a moisturizing spray or something like that may make it work better. I'm gonna powder just the middle of my, or not sorry, powder blot and the side of my nose, the sides of my nose here. So here's what I'll say. This foundation really confuses me. Because I'm not oily. And it does stay on quite well. I got a little bit of wear around here, but that always happens. I mean, I didn't do a ton today. I didn't go outside in the crazy heat. I was editing a bunch, and then my boyfriend and I just spent 3 hours watching the Croatia versus England World Cup game. I did cry just a little bit, not because Croatia won. My boyfriend was going for Croatia. He's Serbian, but because one of the players brought his little son out onto the field, and I just cried a little bit. It was so cute. Anyways, I do think it held up well considering I was touching my face and whatnot. But the problem with this foundation is I don't like the way it looks on my skin. So even though it held up, I didn't like the way it looked on application, and it looks better now, but I still don't think it looks great. Definitely looks better as the day goes on in a weird way. And I've seen other reviews where people got super oily, other reviews where it kind of disappeared. So it's just kind of a confusing foundation. I really want to like it. I appreciate that it's a good price, that it has a wide range. So if you can get your hands on it easily and you are pretty sure about your shade, I recommend that you give it a try. I mean, foundation is so personal. I'm just giving you one opinion. For me, it's not the kind of thing where I'm like, oh, I definitely want to try and find my exact shade match, although I do truly feel like this is a good shade match, although I didn't think it was on first application. I just have other foundations that I like more, and I will link down below some playlists of like best foundations if you're trying to find like other options, if you're kind of curious about what else I like. But I don't know if my foundation needs are kind of changing a little bit, but it just doesn't feel heavy, but it looks cakier than what it should considering the tiny amount of like foundation that I put on my face. Like 2 pumps, and those pumps are very, very small from the bottle. So what I think I'll like this foundation for is mixing. I also kind of want to try it with an oil. Is that crazy? That's not very me, but I kind of feel like it just really needs not dewiness, but just hydration. It just really to the skin, but at the same time it doesn't feel heavy or cakey. So I don't know if this foundation review is helpful. I know that it was incredibly anticipated, and that's why I've been trying to figure out a way to make this foundation work, or trying to kind of gather my thoughts on it. Overall, would I say absolutely run out and buy this? No. But if you want to try and you are curious, go for it. Does that help at all? I don't know. But there are definitely foundations that I like more, and this is not the kind of thing that I feel like I would run out and repurchase, because I don't want to have to work hard to make anything work, if that makes sense. So thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you have tried this foundation. I am so curious, because I know everybody else is just very, very unsure of what to think about this. So let me know your experience down below. And if you'd like to connect with me, you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at SamanthaJaneYT, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!